in some ways they are retarded, and in some ways they're geniuses.
I forgot that was still in there, but it's apropos. All right, Claire. The chum is in the water. Come. We'll see. So anyway, to give you some background for people that may or may not be, I guess, familiar with Claire, she had a belief of secular Quranism. So her premise, and I'm going to try to steelman it, and she can correct me if she comes on, is that she believes that using the Quran helps reinforce the First Amendment. So the premise is you can actually hold the Quran principles and operate an effective government using its principles. And then, of course, people will push back and say, well, what about beating women? What about the the things that are in the Quran and its conjunction stuff that that Islam supports? I mean, it's not just the Quran too. What is it? Kaddish? I forget what it's called. But anyway, it's not just, you could say I guess it's basically the idea of cultural Christianity, but instead we're just going to call it cultural Islam. And so she believes that you can do simple things to still shame women without beating women. You can still allow for men to have multiple wives, but they have to register, The other big one is, speaking of registries, is she believes that we have that she would like to see a registry. Now, the registry is a religious affiliation registry. And so her belief is that Christians should have to identify with all of their beliefs, to stand up for what they believe in, and to state what their denominational belief structure is for record. And then Jews also have to do the same thing. The belief is that you have to claim that you're a practicing Jew or you're not a practicing Jew. But for Islam, she wants them all to unite. Stop talking about Shiite and Sunni. So to me, that signals you want Christians divided, you want Jews divided, but when it comes to Islam, no dividing. They can just be Muslim on these registries. So there's a lot of inconsistency there that I see. And then the last thing, which I was talking to her on another stream and is this idea that Jefferson used the Quran construct Declaration of Independence, which is completely inaccurate, 100%. And I tried to send you the video because they go over other documents where letters of Madison and him were talking about how many times they sourced the Bible when he wrote this. And so there is no sourcing of any Quran. Now, is the Quran congruent with the First Amendment? Sure, I'll give you some of that. But it wasn't built on the Quran. Because he buys the Quran doesn't mean that he is using the Quran and uplifting the Quran as if this is the perfect way to have a society. That's not what he didn't even come close to believing that. So the premise that you have is false. The way you see Christianity is false. The whole idea is we weren't going to get into denominational feuds between Catholics, Anglicans, any type of Protestantism. You weren't going to have that as an issue. And I sent you a text about how many of the the signers of this document were actually clergy, ordained clergy. So the notion that all these guys were just, going for the utilitarian aspect of the Bible, and that was the only benefit that they saw in the Quran, in the Declaration of Independence, that was what they went for. That's why they signed for it. So that's stand. Feel free to ask me any questions, Claire, or you can make some statements if you'd rather just open up with your idea.
Thank you, Brett, for inviting me to your stream. I just wanted to say something about your previous stream with Luke Thompson about pantheism and panentheism. And I was trying to make the point that Spinoza, if you've heard of him, who was the first secular Jew, and he was excommunicated for heresy by his Jewish community in Amsterdam for breaking the third principle of Judaism, which forbids Jews from conceiving of God as being in any way physical or material. So Spinoza basically said, I believe in God, but I don't think this God cares about us, but ain't the universe full of wonders, and that's enough for me. So for saying that, they excommunicated him because A, he's not an ethical monotheist, even though he was in fact a monotheist, and that was, and he was the first pantheist, which is why I mentioned him. So some of your listeners might be interested in that. The last thing you said that I can remember offhand was why I wanted Muslim unity, because it would just be helpful not to be fighting culture wars. And Christians have basically got themselves into a pickle over the centuries with the Protestant Reformation and well, just fighting world wars with each other. So you could actually say that Christianity actually makes Christians fight.
That's it.
And law of Christianity, and also, but that might be the reason why they acquired so much empire. But I don't need to divide Christians, because if you put Christians in a room, eventually they'll be saying my Christianity is better than your Christianity, and then eventually it can only be decided in terms of empire, because that's the only way that Christianity can be used as a kind of feature of empire to say, well, my kind of Christianity has acquired more empire than you, Catholic Church, even though you have been around for longer than anyone else. And also the issue of the Trinity is problematic, because it is, as I was saying, offending against the third principle of Judaism. I know you're not Jews, but you basically try to become Jews and call yourselves God's people, and wish to say that Jews should come on over to Christianity. But I do recognize that Islam is also saying to Jews and Christians, come on over to Islam, and I hope that in this stream we can make an honest and reasonable comparison about which one would be best for all of us. And I'm basically saying, why do we just support the one that gives us the most liberties? And the one that gives us the most liberties is the Quran, because it supports the First Amendment. It's the only holy book in the whole wide world that supports the First Amendment.
Well, it's based on natural law. I agree on that.
Yes, there is mention of nature's God in the Declaration of Independence. So you
And
could,
is that in the Quran?
What about nature's
The laws
God?
of the laws of nature and nature's God. Yeah, is that in the Quran?
Well, the Quran has verses explaining biology and astronomy and the Big Bang. So it is saying that Allah, created the universe and is Lord of the worlds. It's not just Lord of this world, but Lord of the worlds. So, but I think even Jews also accept that, the creation of the world can be taken to be the creation of the universe.
So you think
I guess,
more freedom, you think more freedom and more liberty would be better?
Obviously within the constraints of the options available, right? I mean, we can't, well, even Jews don't want a Torah theocracy. So if you ask any of them who have any knowledge, they'll say that there are 36 capital offenses in the Torah as codified by Maimonides. So that's quite a lot of capital offenses, such as being a drunken and disobedient son, such as breaking the Sabbath, such as blasphemy, which is what they got Jesus for, and idolatry, and sodomy, and all kinds of things. So there's quite a long list, and even Jews find it a bit scary, which is why over the centuries that they've kind of salami slice their principles away. And I see how tempting it is, because Christians have done the same thing. But I guess the great thing about the Quran is that, you may not do it anymore, but if you ever wonder why things are not as they should be, you can look at the book and look at the rules that you didn't follow, and maybe deduce that you're not doing so well because you didn't follow the book of rules that you said you would.
I would say that the same could be true with the Bible. I would say that actually, if most people in the United States didn't deconstruct from Christianity, that we didn't look inward on our will and what we want and what our desires are, this idea of I am entitled to having my rights to do such and such. But the whole idea of Christianity is you're not imposing and forcing them to be Christian, so that you give them the space to come to Christ on your own. Whereas the idea of using Quranism in a secular way is your way of kind of skirting around the theocracy that you're trying to defend this idea. So it's like, we want a theocracy, and we want to have all these rules and punishments for these rules, the stick instead of the carrot, and that will solve all things. But I don't know where in history that has been successful.
Well, I have no problem in acknowledging that just having a law against something doesn't mean it'll never be broken. So the proper way to look at laws and punishment is basically to think of the law as a kind of tariff. If you want to, commit this murder, or park in this place when you're not supposed to be parking there, the consequence is a fine, or execution, or whatever it is. So that's basically the idea, really, that rules are made to be broken, and I think God, in His wisdom, knew that. He made the 10 Commandments, and He knew that they would be broken.
I agree with that.
I
I
mean,
knew,
but that's. And Eve, He told them not to eat.
Yeah, I agree. He knew that this was what was going to happen. So I wouldn't disagree with that. And I do agree that there should be consequences for bad actions, right? But the difference is
the punishment should fit the crime.
Right. So, but the difference is that, like, the things that we've talked about in the past about how the Quran has specific things that don't you agree are not they don't justify the crimes. So, like, beating your wife, this would not be justifiable, but you have an idea of shaming the wife, making her feel, that she should be ashamed. But do you think that would work? I mean, do you really think shaming somebody's going to work? I mean, it may work for some people, but If they want to defy their husband, they're just going to defy their husband. Oh, I have to go through some nanny shaming. Who cares? I can deal with that consequence. No big deal. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah,
I mean, like,
some
that
people are
won't work.
shameless.
Right.
Well, some
Like,
people are
look,
shameless.
use
Others
murder as
can
an
be shamed.
example. Use murder as an example. Sometimes having the death penalty, even if it was a certainty, isn't going to stop somebody from actually killing somebody. And death, murder, suicide is a good example of that. I don't want to pay consequences, but I'm willing to take my own life. So I don't really care about my life, but I want to take their life. So they go ahead and take their life. They take their own life, and they feel like they've got one up on everybody.
Yeah,
Doesn't work.
So I have said that rules are made to be broken, and the people who made these laws don't really anticipate that no one will break those laws, even if you say they're going to die horribly and be tortured for 10,000 years or whatever. There will be people who think they're going to get away with it, because the criminal mind, when it commits a crime, expects to get away from it, or they're so stupid and criminal that they're obviously not thinking ahead. So, but as long as the punishment fits a crime, and most people think it's fair enough, the system will continue. It's only when most people think these laws are crazy, it's causing a meaning crisis, it's not fair, or whatever they think, then you will be reaching a state of rebellion. So all that is necessary is not necessarily a perfect system, which is impossible anyway, because there will be people objecting to the system, but you just want the majority of people in your society to think it's fair enough, and that's enough to keep it going.
And you think that everybody would just agree that that's going to be fair enough, whatever it is? They would just agree on it.
I mean, there are ways of making people agree with you, through persuasion, through propaganda, through public information, whatever you want to call it.
Manipulated.
But really, people don't people obey the law, not because they always agree with the law, but because they don't want to be punished.
Well, maybe, or maybe
they're just scared of being punished.
Well, I would say that, like you brought up before, you guys drive on one side of the road, we drive on the other side of the road. At the end of the day, our culture accepts we should probably drive on the right side of the road. Why? Because everybody in our culture drives on the right side of the road. There's a law saying you can't drive on the left side of the road. So there's a law, but everybody still deals with that rule. Why? Actively, not because it's the law. They don't say, I don't like that law, and they just decide to drive on the other side of the road, not unless they're intoxicated, and clearly it wasn't a conscious decision, or unless they're running from the police and they've already done something and they're afraid of getting caught for whatever that other thing is, then all rules don't apply to that person. But that's obviously the exception, not the rule.
Yeah, so I actually don't know what the point it is you're trying to make. People will obey the law, not because they agree with it, but because they don't want to be punished, and that's enough.
I don't
that's
think
enough,
so.
Right?
I don't think that's enough. I don't think people just are going to do it because they don't want to be punished. That's my point.
Well, don't you not do a whole bunch of things because you don't want to be punished, not because you actually agree?
Well, but being a Christian, right? I obviously hold myself to some kind of standard, right? That I feel like I want to be as pleasing to God as I can because I love him, right? So that's the premise of a Christian psyche, right? So I'm going to do the best I can, and I'm going to try to honor that. I do know that I'm already forgiven for that. So it's like there's this beautiful... Well, because I believe that.
How do you know that God already forbids? It seems so presumptuous.
Well, so I've gone over the difference between
You won't know
belief.
until you're dead
Do
and
you
find
know
yourself in heaven.
well, that would be the absolute no, right? For sure. I won't dispute
So
that.
all you're saying is you believe that God has already forgiven you. I just don't see how anyone alive can say that. You might go on to
Hear
do
me out.
something really
Do
horrible.
you know what belief means? You know the definition of belief?
Have an opinion. That's what it
No.
means. You have an
No, this is
opinion.
what it believes. The primary definition is having to do with firm, persuasive persuasion of the truth based on evidence, testimony, or deduction rather than personal knowledge. That's the definition of belief. Believe. I believe. You want to know the definition of faith?
Well, yes,
Okay, the definition of
same
faith
thing.
is as the noun faith primarily as belief and resilience on truth of what is declared by another. This is what you were talking about, resting solely on their authority and veracity without need for other evidence. You know what truth is?
Okay,
The definition of truth?
truth is what is not in dispute.
You're gonna like this. Conformity to fact or reality and the exact accordance with that which is, has been, or shall be. So the idea that I'm trying to stress upon you with this is that when I say I believe in something, doesn't mean I know without a shadow of a doubt. I'm gonna have some doubt, but I also have assurance of salvation because of my denomination, how I see things, how my doctrine works in my tradition. There's other people that would say you never have assurance, and they would side with you more. Like, how can you just be so confident? But that's where faith comes in. The idea that I'm resting on this authority because I believe in the Bible, right? And the veracity of this Bible without the need of other evidence. That's what faith means. So it seems like you're just not able to accept the idea that you think people with faith in this thing is irrational.
Well, I'm saying the Trinity is unbelievable, but I accept there are people who believe in God and the afterlife without believing or worshipping in the Trinity. And
Do you
if you ask
understand?
them,
Go ahead. I'll let you finish. Sorry.
so look, Brett, people believe what they want to believe, and if you can't prove them wrong, they're going to carry on believing in it because they think it's rational to believe in it, or lots of people believe in it, or the group that believes in this thing, they're powerful. So that's a good enough reason for claiming membership of this or that religious group. So if you want to believe in God, I really think you have to believe in the afterlife where when good will be rewarded and evil punished. But unfortunately, none of us know. None of us know whether there is an afterlife. We might want to believe in it, or we might think there is one because it's our opinion and what we're supposed to believe if we are, Jews or Christians or Muslims, but we don't really know. And faith, therefore, is the inclination towards believing that things will turn out for the best, right? And when we ask ourselves what it means by for the best, it means that good will be rewarded and evil punished in this life and the next, and God will do these things because He's omnipotent, omniscient, and perfectly moral. So if we want to believe in the afterlife, we must logically and necessarily believe that God exists to do these things. Otherwise, well, who's going to do it? Who's going to, send people to heaven or hell or purgatory and reincarnation? Someone needs to do it. And that's why God has been conjured up to do these things. So it becomes logical to believe that good will be rewarded and evil punished. Because if we just I believe that.
You're a Frederick Hegel person, right? You believe that religion had this evolution. Am I correct?
Well, I don't know about evolution. It's just that people want to
not
believe in it,
not
right?
not
You know,
not not
children want to
evolution,
believe that the
not
world is fair.
evolution, not evolution in the original sense of scientific evolution. I'm talking about a process of religion that progressed into what we know as monotheism. You believe in that idea, right? That there was it all started as animinists. We worshipped animals, and then we progressed into pantheism, and then we progressed into henotheism, and then we progressed into and eventually got to monotheism. But you believe, right?
Yes. Yet
Okay.
it's kind of like,
Do you know where that came from?
you know, well, it's a logical progression if you know, see it as a process. Like, I like shopping. I like to see lots of shops. I go to market. I go to Main Street where there are lots of shops. And somebody thought, hey, what about a shopping mall? How about one-stop shopping where everything is in a building and you don't have to be, you know, you don't have to face the elements. It's all comfortable and air conditioned and you don't get wet or, you know, hot or whatever. And then you have the concept of one-stop shopping. And eventually this is a kind of prayer shopping for God. You know, you want your God to be the most powerful being who will be more powerful than the God of your enemy or your rival tribe. And so once upon a time, you can imagine there were all these tribal gods and they fought with each other. And then I guess eventually came the idea of monotheism. Because if you look at Greek mythology, all these, you know, different gods, and then they would fight each other, you know, according to Homer, they would, you know, take sides for various humans and curse them or protect them or whatever. And then it got so bad that Zeus,
how much of the Bible
gods, had to come and sort it out.
How old do you think the Bible is, the Old Testament?
Well, whenever Moses was supposed to have received the Torah from Mount Sinai,
but do you believe that? Do you believe that? Do you believe that?
I'm agnostic about these things, but if Jews want to believe in it and Christians base their religion on
be
the Torah,
be an intellect, and look at the academic scholars. What do most of them believe in regards to the Old Testament?
I don't know. I haven't looked it up.
That's probably a good place to start if you have some judgment on the book itself. And especially when your proposal is, we care about the afterlife, if we care that we should obey the one true God, but you don't want to look into any of the history of the books that actually formulated these principles, these ideas, this structure. Monotheism was in the very beginning.
It's the same God.
What?
It's the same God, Brett.
No.
There's only one Abrahamic God anyway.
You say this all the time. This is not what Christians believe. This is not what Jews believe. This isn't even what Islam believes, regardless of what you think.
Well, they think there's more than one Abrahamic God?
We don't think the God Islam is praying to is the same God that we're praying to. Why? Because we're Trinitarian. Jews don't believe that they're praying to the same God because they don't believe in Trinitarians, right? They don't believe that. So they don't believe they're praying to the same God either. Nor do they, either one of them, consider Jesus to be, regardless of what they say, an actual prophet. Maybe you'll get some people that'll say he was a prophet, but the whole idea of a prophet is a prophet says something and it happens. So the idea is, if he's a prophet, he can't tell lies about the future, and he's dictating his future death and resurrection. And then what? It doesn't happen according to the Muslims? No, he never died. Oh, he never died. But he was predicting his death. So what part of that makes him a false prophet? What part of that makes him an actual prophet? This is the contradiction you get in the Quran. So, and I'm not even an expert in the Quran.
I'm afraid I didn't understand your question. Could you ask your question again? I didn't quite get it.
Yeah, you seem to think that because we can trace our religion back to Abraham, we must be worshiping the same God, which is not the case. Because the distinction comes for Christians and Jews would be when Jesus came. And then when 600 years later, Muhammad has some revelation, which Paul talked about is not a possibility. He has this revelation and he's going to reinterpret the scriptures. But the scriptures he has and whatever knowledge he has on the New Testament, it's clear he has no understanding of A, Jewish faith, and B, Christian faith. He doesn't understand. Because when he's writing the Quran, it's contradiction after contradiction of what he sees. He thinks Mary's part of the Trinity. He doesn't understand Christianity.
In what way do you think Muhammad does not understand Christianity?
Because he thinks Mary's part of the Trinity. There's one example.
Because he rejects the Trinity?
No. He thinks the Trinity includes the Father, the Son, and Mary. That's what he thought.
What's your evidence for this?
It's in the Quran.
Really? Well,
really?
I know the Quran rejects the Trinity, so and there was a time that when Christians did worship Mary, because the Catholics call Mary Mother of God. But anyway,
yeah, they don't think she's divine.
Collect your Trinity, God is one. That's what Jews and Muslims believe.
So you're not seeing the incompatibility of. You don't see any contradictions in the Quran.
I mean, such as I need to know which ones you're talking about.
I just named one.
Okay, which verse is this? You're saying, well, of course Muslims reject the Trinity. I'm not going to argue with you about that. Jews and Muslims reject the Trinity.
No, but they didn't even. My whole point was Muhammad didn't even understand Christianity. My guess is he probably had some confused understanding of Christianity when he tried to come up with this revelation on how he was going to control the masses or whatever he was doing, because he literally was changing his own religion to suit his own personal needs in life. So that, to me, he's like the ultimate cult leader. Quote what? What do you want me to quote? You don't agree with anything I just said?
Well, I do. I mean, you're saying stuff about Muhammad, and I'm just asking you, where you get this idea from that he didn't. I mean, of course, Muslims reject the Trinity, and then you're saying you don't understand. He didn't understand the Trinity. I mean, I guess. Well, I mean, Jews and Muslims reject the Trinity because they say God is one. And Muslims think associating partners with God is an unforgivable sin. And if that's what you mean, I can't disagree with you there. I mean, I don't think we're arguing about anything. I mean, you're accusing me of saying Muslims don't accept the Trinity, and I can only agree with you. They don't.
All right, but yet we're worshiping. You say we're worshiping the same God.
Yeah, because the Abrahamic religions include Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. And there's more than one Abrahamic religion, even though there's one Abrahamic God, because once you get to the pinnacle of divine power, then everybody wants to say, well, my God is the most powerful God, and there's only one, right? That's what people would say naturally and logically, and the competing Abrahamic religions are basically saying our way to God is better than all the others. That's all that's being said, and we have to choose, right? We have to choose, and being Gentiles, obviously we don't want to be Jews. And therefore there's only two to choose from, Christianity and Islam, right? And I'm saying the founding fathers represented the first Europeans to move Europeans away from Christianity. And I still don't see how you can deny that. They obviously had a problem with the Trinity. And
Don't
there is
deny that.
the Unitarian Church which was founded in America. And once upon a time, the Unitarian Church was quite powerful. And that there have been 4 Unitarian presidents last time I looked that up. I mean, it's easier to believe that God is one and not Jesus, because, the moment you say, Jesus is also God, people are going to say, well, how and why and how did that happen and who said? And then they're going to be accused of heresy. And I guess in the olden days, they were just told to shut up about it or be burned at the stake. And the founding fathers, thank goodness, said, we're not having any of that now after the Salem witch trials.
I don't think that you're grasping what Christians believe God is. And so therefore you think that you can somehow unite people under this Quran God and say, can't we just all get along? And you claim to be agnostic, right? You claim to think that
saying,
you say that
you
say there may be a God. I just don't know it.
No, there's only one God. If you're going to be monotheistic,
so you believe there's
only one
you believe
God,
there's
and
a God.
The Abrahamic God, and then
I'm talking about you.
Then you can go.
I'm talking about you.
Well,
what do you believe?
I'm saying if there is a God, there's only one. Yeah. Because if you say that the creator of the universe is 2, people are going to ask me, what? How do you know that the 2 gods? Was there a Mr. God and a Mrs. God?
You're missing my
these
point.
Questions
I asked you if you, Claire, believes in God.
I'm agnostic. I do not know for sure if he exists, but what I'm certain about is that
hold on. Once let's take this step by step. I because you say if, so, okay, so you think there may be a chance, but I'm proposing to you in a proposition that you do know there's a God. And you don't like it.
I can definitely affirm the existence of the concept of God. It's an idea in a lot of people's minds.
Do you like it? Do you like it or do you not like it? This concept.
Yeah, I like it. I like it a lot.
You like it because it has use for you, correct?
Not just for me, but for everybody, because obviously a lot of people derive a lot of spiritual comfort from thinking that good will be rewarded and evil punished in this life and the next. And there is the possibility of perfect justice.
I would say that a good chunk of Christians don't obey God just because of the rewards. That doesn't mean there aren't any. I'm just saying that's not why they're doing it. That's the disconnect I think you have with Christianity.
Okay, you're saying that all these Christians who do not expect a reward from God, like you.
I'm saying that's not why they're doing it.
Okay, so why are they doing it?
Because they love Jesus.
Well, I guess I have to say that if they're Christian.
No, I don't have to say anything. I literally love Jesus. I don't have to say that.
Okay, so you
but I want
being
to.
Christian.
Well, that's true.
You want
love
to
being
what?
Christian. I do love being Christian, but that's not why I'm saying I love Christian. I love God, Christ. That's not why I'm saying it. I'm not saying it because I want to claim Christianity.
What are your reasons?
Because he literally has a relationship with me, and I see him interacting with me directly in prayer, in my real life, in the way that he moves through other people. He interacts with people. and they interact with me, and then all of a sudden there's these coincidences that just seem too surreal to be just coincidental. The odds are just
Would
stacked
you like to
against.
describe? Would you like to describe these experiences you've had?
Of how prayer worked?
Well, of you and your relationship with Jesus.
This is what's so nuts, is that he's done things that shock and amaze me so many times in my life because I've been open to seeing it, right? To list them, it's so insane. But I will give you two that I hold pretty close to me because I thought that I had to do something in situations, and I relied on being broken and not knowing how to handle them, right? So one was I just gotten this great job. It was a phenomenal job. And for whatever the reason, this boss that I had completely disliked me and this other guy out of 20 salespeople. I mean, he literally was targeting us. He would nitpick us, everything we do. So we found a way that every time we saw him walk to the right on the sales floor, we'd walk to the left. So we would literally deliberately just away from him, because if he got close enough to him, he'd find a problem, And I mean, it got to the point where it was getting hostile. Like, you could see his motive was to try to call out me and this guy deliberately, right? And I'm like, I got this great job. I have this great opportunity. I have this new life. I'm not drinking. I'm doing all these great things, And so, like, in AA, this cult religion thing that you think is just insane. I had a sponsor tell me that I should start praying for this person who's clearly in enmity to me. He clearly doesn't like me. He clearly has it against me. Didn't do anything to deserve it. But for whatever the reason, this is how he has received me. And I'm like, just sober, I am not wanting to pray for this guy. I do not want to pray for this guy. He's my enemy, man. Even though the Bible says that, that's easier said than done. I just can't do it. But I realized that if I'm going to humble myself, especially before a God that I believe to be greater than all things, and I am going to be open to possibly seeing what he's capable of, what he can do, I'm going to put him to the test, even though we don't test God. But I'm going to test this idea of prayer, the idea that this actually has a benefit, even if it's just to my psyche. So I started praying every night, every morning, for this guy. He was part of my normal prayers. I didn't just pray for him, but I prayed for, God, that you allowed me to be sober and drug-free one more day. Thank you, allowed me to be sober, drug-free one more day. Well, in my entire prayer life, I incorporated blessings for this guy that dislikes me. Even though I didn't want blessings really for the guy, but I still did it anyway. I still prayed for the guy, right? Now, this guy was like a fixture in the company. This guy had been with the company 20 years. This guy was going nowhere. They just opened this store. This guy is a barrier to me and happiness in this company, or even possibly a future in this company. So it's like, all of a sudden what happened was, after a week or two of praying for this guy, I started seeing him as a real person. I started seeing him as a man that's just as flawed as me, just as messed up as me. No matter how he's treating me, no matter what he has against me, even illegitimate, there has to be something that I'm not privy to, right? But so I start actually meaning these prayers and caring about this guy, right? Now you would say, oh, well, this is probably going to give you some outer, way of how you handle him, and he's just everything's going to resolve because he just works himself up because I have such a better attitude about the guy. I have this compassion for the guy. That was kind of what I was hoping for. But actually what happened is the guy literally gets transferred out of the company. I mean, gone. Like, I wasn't praying for that. I was praying for blessings. I was praying that the guy, succeed, that he didn't have worry at home, whatever's causing him to come to work being so miserable. Like, I didn't see that as a possible solution. And when that happened, the next guy that came in, I ended up becoming best friends with. We hung out, we worked out together, all sorts of things. So like it was like a huge evolution, but I didn't see that writing on the wall. I have had another situation where I had a guy that was taking advantage of a recovered roommate of mine. And so when I wasn't home and I had my place and I had all my secure belongings, he literally was running roughshod on this newly sober dude, making him go to the store and buy beer for him. This is the guy in the neighborhood, and he's a thug. He was a bully, and he just bullied people through the neighborhood. And this guy lived there for a long time. I mean, he was a fixture, just like that old boss I had, you know, and I knew that this guy's not going anywhere. And I knew that I was going to get into an interaction with him. I would have a confrontation with him. At some point, it was going to come down to that. And the way this guy operates, it was going to come down to blows. And I'm worried about not being thrown in jail with it. So I was really scared. You know, I didn't know how to handle this. So that night, before I knew the interaction was going to happen the next morning, it was imminent. It was going to happen. I was going to have to confront the situation head on. I hit my knees and I started praying for this guy. In the same fashion I prayed for that boss I had, because I just did not know how this was going to work out. I didn't want to go to jail because I beat the crap out of the guy. I didn't want the guy to get one over on me and then maybe I end up pummeled in the hospital. Whatever the scenario was, I didn't know how it was going to work out. I wake up the next morning, the landlord has got his front door open and he's walking through it and it's completely empty. No furniture, no nothing. I went to sleep at 9 p.m. I wake up at 8 a.m. and his entire apartment is empty. And I'm like, what? I go over to the landlord. What happened? What happened? He goes, I don't know. He just got up and left in the middle of the night. I have no idea. I'm like, how about? I thought he's been here for, he's one of my best tenants. I have no idea what happened. So what I'm saying is that sometimes there's things that I can't explain. I can't really put words to it per se, but I know that God had a hand in certain things in my life that were just inconceivable. And I would tell my boss, who is an agnostic like you, and he's like, oh yeah, God really cares about who your neighbor is. You know what I mean? He would make fun of me. I'm like, well, I can see how you'd say that. But then as he's making fun of me, there was a particular piece of equipment that we had on our sales floor that people sold maybe once a year, but it made you a lot of money. It was kind of like the goal, winning the lotto, if you could, right? So this day that he's making fun of me about God caring, I end up selling one. Now, I kind of made fun of him mocking me. And it was the next day or whatever, or a couple of days later when we were working together again. And I was like, dude, you know, you're making fun of me, dude. I just knocked one. He's like, yeah, he really cares that you sold that. I'm like, okay, I'm just saying. So the morning starts and opens up again, and a customer comes up, and I happen to show the same piece of equipment to that particular person. But they walk right by me. They get another salesman, and the sale was a laydown for the guy. They didn't mention me, and the rules on the floor were, if they don't bring you up, you're out. If they don't care enough about you, you don't get credit. And I was really, I was wrecked. Even though I had sold one and I was a rock star for even selling one, there was this jealousy that kind of sunk in that this guy just stole my sale, you know? So I instantly went outside and I had to shake this off. I threw up a prayer. I'm like, listen, I don't want to be envious of someone else. I want to desire what other people want, what other people are getting. I should be I should be happy for the guy that he got a sale, you know, instead of me being so selfish. So I shake it off. I walk back inside. Literally the next customer I get, I show it to them for the first time and they just buy it. Like, there's no weeks of contemplation. They just lay down and buy it. And I'm like zooming. I'm like, I cannot believe that just happened, right? That's just crazy talk. The next time I literally go back outside, I decide to take a smoke break and I'm smoking my cigarette. And this little demon slips into my brain and said, yeah, but you could have had two. And I'm like, you are such a jerk. What is wrong with you? You literally, like, God blesses you, and the first thing you thought is what you don't have. And so I literally prayed again. I'm like, I am so sorry for taking advantage of the gifts that you've given me to see it this way, to have this creep into my brain so selfishly that I'm not just happy and grateful that I was able to get one too, and that I couldn't be happy for that other guy. So I walk back in. I tell the guy, hey, man, I'm glad you got that. I'm like, I'm surprised you didn't ask for me, but I'm glad you got it. You know, if anybody was going to get it, I'm glad you did, you know. If a couple customers go by, I end up with another one. I sell another one. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. I mean, you rarely sell one of these a year, and I sell 2 in one day. I'm like, are you kidding me? This is insane to me, right? This is just like, I was saying I could have had 2, and then what does he do? He gives me 2, but it was like under a completely different mentality after I had literally been so selfish and crying and whining to him. So I go outside, I'm smoking a cigarette. I'm like, oh, this is the best day. I made like 2 months worth of pay in a day. I mean, it's just insane, you know? And what do you know it, Claire? What do you think I was thinking?
I can't read your mind. Why? Please tell us.
Are you listening? Are you listening to the story?
Yeah,
or am I just bloviating?
You're telling me about your work.
So what happened was I went back outside after selling that second one and being so grateful. The thought slipped into my head, I could have had 3. This is how sick I was as far as the way that I think and process information, the lack of gratitude that Christ has done, the blessings that he's bestowing on me, and yet I'm still like wanting to kick him in the teeth with these blessings. And I was so ashamed. And so like I'm like, Lord, I'm not even worthy of the 2 you gave me. And I'm sitting here thinking about this hypothetical third I could have had because of the way that first sale went down. The guy walked by. I'm like, how is this even possible? How do I not have gratitude with what you're giving me? I doubled what I would have had when I was complaining, you know? So I go back in, I'm working or whatever. It's the end of the day. Like, you know, I'm just so upset with myself, just because of the way that I felt like, but I prayed it off. I apologized to God. I was like, you know, I'm sorry for being such a selfish asshole. A customer runs in at the end of the day, and wouldn't you know it, I sell another one. So I sell 3 in one day. My boss was kind of like laughing as the day was going on. And I said to him, as I'm walking him to the register, I said, anytime you want to mock God, feel free, because I think what he did here with these particular pieces wasn't just for me. I think it was for you too, because he had such a smart ass mentality about, oh yeah, God really cares, you know, but I think he really does care. You know, I happen to be in a job where a situation like that could be occurred and I could see a value in it and everything, but that's the deal. Is like, those are like the things that he has done in my life that you can say they're coincidences. You can just say it's just happenstance, but it's just happened too many times in my life for me to believe that he didn't play a part in connecting with certain people, that he didn't play a part with solving a problem that I was really stressing over. You know, the idea that he would make my sobriety, getting sober and off drugs, so easy because I was walking with him. I've seen other people, man, they struggled hard, you know, but for whatever the reason, it was really a smooth process for me because I was really embedded in reading in scripture, praying to him, had a good community around me, you know, great community around me, you know, and so this whole process and him interacting in my life and seeing like how he even gave me a heart. This is what I was talking about, changing your heart of flesh from your heart of stone to a heart of flesh. He literally changed the way I see him and that I love him. And that's what I pray for you. I pray that literally you would be willing to pray for that type of heart in your heart. You know, I get how I can only imagine. You don't share your personal life. You share little tidbits, but move on. But if it gets emotional, you're not in with it. So I get it. Whatever you're willing to share is fine. But my whole point is that if you're willing to actually submit to God, and you believe that God exists, maybe pray for him to change your heart. Possible? Is it possible?
Into what?
Into a heart of flesh, into a heart that gives you a desire to seek after him. What?
I already have a heart of flesh. I mean, you know,
in the literal sense, right?
And I think if he exists, he would be pleased with me for reminding people to be mindful of his commandments, forbidding idolatry. So I am being mindful of God and his laws, and I think I would be on his good side, you know, if he's looking down on me. What do you think, Brett?
I think he's definitely using you. I think using whatever method that you see life in, you know, that he's definitely finding a way to probably corridor off certain things you do, because I think that you probably do have some good intentions there that believes this to actually be the most logical thing. I mean, I've gone back to 2001 and you going on to T-Jump stream, and you clearly have worked a long time to formulate this idea, this premise, this thesis. And yet, for whatever the reason, you just, I don't know, I mean, you just seem to want to perfect it, get it right, have answers for every single thing that somebody would have an objection with. But the whole time, it's all self-focused on this idea you're trying to create, as opposed to who am I talking to and why should they care? Why should they care? They shouldn't care because they know you really don't care about them.
Why would you accuse me of that? I mean,
because if I'm in a relationship with you, Claire, you'll share things about yourself with me that would be intimate. I'm not asking for some sort of whole mushy bushy rando that you think that would be what Paul would be wanting. But there is people that have known you for a long time that are really interested in why Claire has come to the conclusion she's come to. And you can say it has nothing to do with my childhood. It has nothing to do. Okay, then tell us why. Why has this become the thing that has been the most important thing to you in your life?
Well, because I think it would work if implemented.
But why do you care so
much? Just accept that I believe in my idea, even if you don't like it or approve.
Yeah, I can accept that. But you don't see any other reason in your history, in your past, for why this is so attractive to you and why you care so much about it.
Well, because I think it's a big idea and it would solve a lot of problems, and I think it would even prevent World War III. And and there is a reason why I am particularly focusing on Americans, because I keep thinking they, of all people, should know or care about the reasons for their founding. And I'm saying it's because the founding fathers had a problem with Christianity, but for some reason you haven't got the memo.
No,
that isn't true, and I already went over that with you.
Yeah.
Well, you haven't proven it to my satisfaction.
Yes, I have. Yes. Okay. Look at the signers of the Declaration of Independence. Over half of those were either practicing priests or practicing people within parishions where they were leaders within their church who actually believed in God and in the Trinity and were not Unitarians. You prove that to me that that's opposite.
No, I'm saying the Declaration of Independence is not
Was
talking
signed by
about the
people who were
Trinity.
majority Christians.
Yeah,
Yes,
because
I
they
believe it.
felt they could agree with that.
Yes.
Because it was a universal and reasonable description of
Based off of the fact
a
that
God that cared
in the
about
Christian
people.
Bible, the Christian Bible says that all men are created equal, right? Right? It doesn't explicitly says that, but it says that, right? That all people have meaning, right? That's a Christian idea, right? That is not in the Quran, right? I've read a majority of the Quran. You always tease me, hey, you should read it, you should finish reading the Quran, right? That's not a thing, right? I've read most of it, and it's not in there,
Where is all men are created equal in the
right?
Claire, I
It
already
says,
told you it's the natural law.
no, it's
in the New Testament?
it says clearly, we have all sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. And then it says that we are all, right,
Yeah,
divine. We are all equal and under his grace, right? We are all under the grace of God, right? And in the letter of Jude,
which verse is this, Olson?
in the letter of Jude, Paul exhorts, right, the slave owner to take back the slave as an equal brother. An equal brother.
Jude is Old Testament, isn't it?
Nope.
New.
Jude.
Also, Ecclesiastes 3:13 is a pretty good one, which states every man should eat and drink and enjoy the good of his labor. It is a gift from God.
Claire,
So, yeah, Ecclesiastes 3:13.
you
Yeah.
cannot belittle us. You just said, why does it matter if I believe in what I believe, right? I think it's going to do good and it's going to have the best impact on the world and could even stop World War III. I would say the exact same thing about Christianity and the Trinity. Yet you, every day, every morning, you come on and you belittle us, which is fine, right? We are sheep to the slaughter. You're like, you guys are just beta males willing to go to the slaughter. Yeah, of course. I don't care. Whatever. Slaughter us, make fun of us, but realize the hypocrisy with what you're saying. You always claim, hey, you guys are hypocrites because you believe in the Trinity, right? But you're a hypocrite, right?
No,
And
I'm saying you don't care that it's idolatry. I'm
I'm going to
saying
bring up,
you are hypocrites
I
because you
do
don't
care,
care
right?
that it's
I do care.
idolatry.
I do care, Claire, right? I care.
But you
But
carry
I've given it
on.
thought. I've given it thought, right? You want me to explain the Trinity to you? You can't handle it, but I'll explain it to you. Okay? So God
Go
is
on.
both for himself and for others, right? There's the ontological truth of God, both for himself and for others. The basis of God is that the unity of God. And so in the unity of God is the God being for himself, the being of God for himself, then means that here there is a love within himself. That love within himself is then naturally creating a love of others because that's what divine love does. Divine love creates more love for others other than itself. Therefore, he created us to be part of to be a God of being and of becoming. Then he, there you go, buddy. To be a God of being and becoming, right? He continually has to be in that process of becoming. The becoming and the process of becoming is to become in the present of the history of the world. To become in the history of the world, then he becomes a man, right? And you don't understand that. You can't wrap your heads around it. That doesn't mean it's not true. He becomes a man because he's the God of becoming. He's the God of becoming is because he becomes a man to express his love as being one, right? That says it in Philippians 2. Christ not being equal with God, considering essence of God, being the same essence of God, but did not create equality with God because it is a different personhood of God, but still within the same essence of God, right? And so then his being and becoming within relation to himself is then extended to the other, which is us, right? And then it's the speech act of becoming to the word become flesh. The word become flesh then also needs to experience the truth of the reality of negation, of not flesh. And so he goes up on the cross and he dies. But that's not the end of the story, because in the after the cross, he goes down to where the people have rejected him and he presents himself to them, right? It says he goes down into Hades for 3 days and presents himself to them, so that they may have an opportunity to join in the Holy Trinity of the relationship of God, of being and becoming of God. And then he comes back up and raises back, and he's a different person, right? He's in the completed form, the perfected form, and he talks to the disciples. And as he talks to the disciples, he encourages them, go, tell them, baptizing them in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, right? You don't baptize if you believe in just one Abrahamic God of what you're saying, like there couldn't be a Trinity. He wouldn't say that, but he does say that. No other prophet says that. No other prophet says that in the history of the Abrahamic traditions. And then he goes and then he raises again, and we believe he's sitting at the right hand of the Father as part of the being and becoming of God, right? The being and becoming of God, and he's still there present. And now the Spirit, the third part of the Trinity, has been set upon us to be a part of the world, right? And yet you still mock us and you say the Trinity doesn't make sense. I agree it doesn't make sense to you, because to those who don't understand the love of God, it is foolishness. And so it's foolishness to your ears. But don't be a hypocrite and tell us we don't think about things. Don't be a hypocrite and say that we haven't thought of that, but you've thought of everything, right? Don't be the hypocrite that you tell us we are, because we're not. But in your attacking us, you are.
All I'm saying is that if you cared about being on the right side of God, you should be mindful of
You
his
don't care.
prohibition
You're an agnostic.
against
You don't care.
idolatry.
You're an
You said
agnostic.
a
You
whole
don't
bunch of
care.
words, but you
You're
haven't
an
proven
agnostic.
that
You
it's not
don't care.
idolatry.
You're an agnostic. You don't care.
I care. I care that people are full of foolishness and absurdity that they cannot explain
You're an
to
agnostic
anyone's
teaching people to
satisfaction.
follow a God. How is that not foolishness and absurdity? You're an agnostic teaching people to follow a God you don't believe in. How is that not
No, I
how is
don't.
that
I
not
don't say
foolishness and
follow a
absurd?
God. I
Yes,
don't
you
say
say follow the
follow a
God
God.
of the
I
Quran.
say obey his laws. That makes sense anyway.
Right. So if we obey his
So
laws as Christians, why does it matter that we believe in
you don't
a
obey
Trinitarian? I don't.
Congress does not.
Congress is not me.
Congress makes all
Congress is
kinds
not
of
me.
laws.
Congress is not
Yeah,
me.
but you don't. You see, you're not political. You don't. You're none of
You don't
your
know what I do.
political
You don't know what
activists.
political leanings I've had. I've had
Okay,
way more
what
political
do you
leanings than
do?
you have. I've asked you if I should vote, and you said no. And then you told us how to set up a Quranian government within the state of Mississippi. And Chris Howard and I were going along and saying, okay, yeah, but how do we set that up? Once we convince all the people, how do we do that? And you said, oh, well, I guess you're gonna have to vote and get them in. And I'm like, but you just told us not to vote, right? You're the hypocrite. You're the contradictory
No, I
person.
didn't say anything of that. I said
Yes,
to
you
Chris
did.
that I wouldn't want
Yes,
him to
you
get
did.
into any trouble. No, it has to be done at the federal level. That was what I said.
No,
And if you
no, you
try
did
anything
not.
regionally, I
Okay.
guess the National Guard will come for you.
No, that's not what you
And
said. That's what you
I
came
didn't
up with
want you
before or
guys to get into
after.
trouble.
No, you don't care.
What?
You've said on other streams where you didn't think people were looking in the chat. You said you just want the TLC to become a bunch of keyboarders for secretary secular Quranism, right? That's what you said.
Yeah, I don't deny that.
So you don't
It
care
would
about
be
us. You
nice
just
if
want us to
people
be
use facts and logic
bot-driven
to solve
keyboard
problems.
strokers. You just want us to be bot-driven
Yeah, I'd
keyboard
say,
strokers.
yeah, using facts and logic to avoid and solve problems.
Facts. You
I
don't
don't
use
see
facts and
how
logic. I've
anything
already
you have
proven to you
proposed.
don't use facts and logics three times in this
Well,
conversation, and yet
I
you
still
haven't
don't
refuted them.
understand
You
your
just
argument.
obfuscate and change the subject.
No, you're the one who. I don't know what you're actually accusing me of. Am I a
I'm
hypocrite?
accusing you of
I actually told
hypocrisy.
you
I'm
I'm
accusing you
agnostic.
of
I don't
obfuscation.
pretend
I'm
to believe
accusing
in
you of
God
not
and love.
caring about us. You don't care about us.
Why do you say that when I actually told you,
Because can you
no,
tell
I
me what
don't
I
want
actually
to?
believe? We've had the conversation. We've had three conversations where I've told you deep
Well,
personal
I'm
things
saying
about what I believe, and
Christianity
then
is
you tell me I never told you that, and you can't repeat one thing I've said to you.
yeah, because you don't speak very clearly. I mean,
I
you
just
said a whole
summarized
bunch of
everything in
words.
concise sentences. God's being is in
Okay.
becoming, and therefore he becomes himself. That is the concise sentence of the Trinity.
Well, it
You
doesn't
you
make any
deciphered.
sense to
That's
me.
up to you. I know
No,
that's
no, I'm
that's
saying
your
the
problem. That's a
Trinity.
you problem.
Okay,
That's
I
a
guess
you
that's
problem.
my problem, but a lot of people,
So
other
stop
people won't
blaming us for
understand you.
you problems. Stop attacking us for you
No,
problems. You
no, no.
don't.
Well, the problem is you don't really care what your government is doing, and you're not going to
That's
do
not
anything
true.
about
You
it.
don't know me. You don't
Okay,
know
what
what
are you
I
going to do
do.
about your government? You're
What
going
are
to
you
carry
going
on
to do about
voting?
your government? When did you vote in your
No,
last
no, no,
election for
no,
your
no.
government?
Listen. You're the global hegemon. The European
You
countries
don't
are
think
just your
UK
vassal
is
states.
part of that global hegemon? They started it. You're changing the subject again. You're obfuscating
I'm not
again.
changing the subject to anything. Are you
Yes.
blaming the British government for telling you guys what to do? We're just a US missile base. We have stupid leaders who, yeah, they're really stupid, and we can't remember their names because they come and go.
Again,
It's a good
obfuscating.
thing.
Like, that's not the point.
It's a good thing you voted for them, Claire.
Voted for whom?
Anybody.
I'm not voting. No, it doesn't matter who you vote for. You get the same old crap. And you guys
So
should
you're
realize
saying,
that too.
so I
Since you
feel like,
vote
so this
for
is why
Trump,
you say,
and you still get more war.
this is why I say you're fishing. You're a CIA fish, right? You're a fisherman. You're looking for people who want to advocate revolution, right? Because you're like, don't vote. Voting doesn't mean anything. Well, we have to change the federal government. Well, how can we change the federal government if we can't vote? Well, the only way I could think of is taking up arms and going against them, right? That's why I say that.
No,
That's why I say
no,
you're a
no,
CIA fishing person.
no. This is what I propose, which is to finally admit that you should have listened to Washington when he warned you against political parties. That's what I keep telling Americans, but they don't even respect their founding
Why do
father
you? But
enough to.
why do you think Washington wrote that, Claire? Think he was
Because he
conceiving
knew
of a
he was a
two. Do you
genius
think?
and
I
So then
think that he was dealing with
he
12
knew what would happen
colonies,
if you
and
had
he was.
political parties.
So how do we change the political parties, Claire? Huh? How do we go about doing that?
Well, you could actually talk about it instead of your endless Bible
Okay, we're talking
studies.
about it now. We're talking about it now. What are we going to do
Okay,
about
good.
it?
So have you read his speech?
Yes, I've read his speech tons of times, right? You are the one who fundamentally does not understand his
Well,
speech.
what
You don't understand Washington. I have a big three huge, like thousand plus pages books, each of them, three of them, of Washington's life. Right? I've gone through those. Have you gone through those? You don't understand Washington. He was a Christian.
Okay,
He was a
so
partisan.
what
He was
don't
part
I
of the
understand
Federalist
about
Party. He
Washington?
was part of the Federalist Party.
He actually didn't join a party.
If you look at his record, if you look at his voting record and his letters to his people that he corresponded with, he was lock in step with the Federalists. Whether you want to say he took on the
Yes,
term of the
because he
Federalists or not,
wanted the union. He wanted to keep the union going, and he didn't want regionalism and successionism.
that wasn't
And
even
he
the
said, don't
verbiage
have
of his
political
day.
parties. He
That
did
wasn't
say
even
that
in the
too.
verbiage of the day. The term the Union didn't even come into English vernacular in the United States until the Civil War.
Well, there was a time when there were these 13 states and they constituted the United States of America. No?
No, first they
And there was
constituted
always a
the
danger that they
Confederacy.
could go their own way.
At first they
Because
were
it was
constituted
only a
under the
loose
Articles of Confederation.
confederation.
Okay,
Yes.
so
So you've always had this states' rights and federal supremacy problem. You couldn't agree.
it's not a problem. It's a feature.
Well, I think if any state were to say, well, we don't want to be part of this union anymore, there's going to be trouble for them, right?
I mean, same with Wales.
Well, Wales is actually part of England now, but I mean, yeah, it would be
Right,
a
but if they
problem
want,
if Scotland
if they're
decided
like,
to.
oh, we're going to adopt secular Koreanism, so you British, you can go on your way. We're going to institute a one-party system because that always works well. Circa Russia, China, yep, that always Cuba, Venezuela, that works
Well,
super well.
China's doing okay.
Okay, I would never want to live in China versus America if all I was
You'd never
doing
go and
was working.
visit China, would you? You'd never go. Have you visited any? Do you have a
See, you took it to the
passport?
extreme.
Don't
See,
you?
you take it to the extreme. This is what you do in arguments. You take somebody's simple statement, and you're like, well, you would never do this, or you
Well,
always
would
do
you?
that. Yeah, I would
Would
go
you?
visit if
Would you
somebody was
visit
over there that I
China?
cared about. I would totally, yeah.
Okay.
There's
Yeah,
tons of stuff in China.
you know. Okay. Do you know any Americans in China?
I don't currently that I know of, but I might. I don't know.
Okay. Well. If you know any Americans in China in the future, maybe ask them what they think of how it compares to America.
I have, yeah. I've talked to a lot of people who've
Good.
lived in China. Yes,
Hmm.
I've known Chinese citizens who've purposely got out. I knew a Chinese boy. I knew a Chinese boy and his parents, and they had recently gotten out of China and they were living in another country. And he had to he we were talking about family, and he almost broke down in tears explaining that he should have had a younger sibling. But the Chinese state, the Chinese Communist Party had a one child, one
And they
child, one
changed it
family
now to a
policy,
three-child policy.
right?
But it's
What?
at
But
least they admit their
no, no, no,
mistakes,
no, no.
right?
Listen to me. Listen to me. Listen to me. You're saying you're arguing, oh, China's got it good. The one party policy is good, right? They didn't have an opposition to stop and say, hey, maybe we shouldn't force people to have abortions and to kill people, right? He was breaking
Yeah.
down in
Well.
tears
They're
because his
saying it
mother
now.
had to have an abortion. He doesn't have a sibling because you're great
That is
one
a
government
common
in
problem,
China.
I'll admit. Yeah, they had a one-child policy, and now they want a three-child policy. So they walked back on their one-child policy
Yeah, and it's
after
not working,
realizing
is
what
it?
it's done.
It's not working.
Yeah. So they need to do, well, I think they need secular Quranism with Chinese characteristics.
Yeah. Let's put up more cameras in their houses to make sure they're mating.
Not really. I mean, you just have
You've
to
advocated for that. You've
pat
said that we
people
should
on
have
the
cameras in
head
our.
when they
You've
do the
said we should
right
have
thing and
cameras.
say, well
You've said
done.
we should have cameras in everybody's house. Everybody's house should have multiple cameras.
No, I didn't say that. I said,
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. We were having a conversation with
no,
Chris,
no,
and
I
we were
said,
talking
well,
about
if
marriage,
there's a
and you
problem
said
of domestic
yes.
abuse, if there's a problem of domestic abuse, and you want to prove that it's taking place, yes, you will have cameras in the home, but only if a couple
Only.
have a problem. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, good. Glad there's that clarification.
Hmm. Thank you for raising it.
You honestly don't see the are you so tone deaf to yourself that you don't understand how that's a problem?
If the couple in question, the husband and wife, are accusing each other of all kinds of things,
Would
of
you
domestic
trust
violence,
such a
then
system
they have
to
to
the current
prove it.
government in the UK you have right now? Would you trust such a system to the current government you have in the UK right now?
No, because they're hopelessly corrupt.
Right. All governments become hopelessly corrupt, right? Unless you have a system
Yes,
of checks and
and
balances to distribute the power amongst competing locus of power. You don't understand that. You've never understood that.
I understand that the people themselves are corrupt. They tell lies, they cheat, and they even lie to
Who runs the
themselves. So a
government?
country of fake Christians voting for a
Who
ruling
runs the government?
class
Right? Look at the
who,
Iranian
who,
government.
who
They
are
run.
fake
They're
Christians
not
is not going
Christians.
to end
Look at
well.
the Sudan government. They're not Christians, right? Look at the Indonesian government. They're not Christians. Look at the Chinese government. They're not Christians. Are you telling me that all those places are not corrupt? Are you telling me that corruption is inherent in the heart of man?
They don't hate their government the same way as you
Are
guys
you
hate your
kidding me?
government.
Are you kidding? Somali people don't hate their government?
Is there a chart of government hatred?
Yeah, they hate their governments. They're warlords.
Really? Uh, how is it measured? I mean, you guys will not even think of
I would
running for
measure.
office
I
because
would
you know
say.
the
I would
system
say a
is
healthy
rigged.
way to
I
measure it
remember
is to see
Ryan
how many
saying
people are
it's
trying
so
to get
corrupt
out of
he's
that
not even
country. I
talking
would
about
say a good way to
politics.
measure a good way. You asked me a question. A good way to measure it would be that that you said that how do you measure it? And so this is how you measure a good measure would be how many people are trying to escape over risking their life, risking their limbs, risking their noble fortune, risking everything about themselves to get out of there, right? And I would say that Somalia has more people risking to get out of
Yeah,
there
because
over everything.
yeah, because you've destroyed their country.
Yeah,
So
we
so
destroyed
these
the country.
countries are
Yes,
the ones
yes,
that are
we
the
destroyed. It
victims
all
of
comes back
Western
to us.
imperialism.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
not part of the
Do you
Western
really not know
imperialism.
what your country does? Do you
Do you
not
really
know?
not
Have you
know?
heard of the neocons? Have you heard of the neocons? Do you know anything about US foreign policy?
No, I don't
Do
know
you know
anything about
anything
that's
about it?
sarcasm. Claire, I know way more about foreign policy than you could ever dream
Okay,
of.
well, tell
Right?
us something. Tell us something.
I've told you a lot of things. You haven't listened to
No,
me.
you haven't.
Tell me you
All
show
you
me you've
do
listened to
is
me.
listen.
Prove to me you
All
have
you
listened
do
before I spend
is
another
repeat.
5 breaths of
All
my
you
life.
do is repeat CNN crap. Where'd you
Oh,
get your news from anyway, Olson? Where the fuck do you get your news from?
where do you get it
Relax,
from?
tone it down. You know, here's the thing. Here's my question though, is that it's when Trump made the statement about the Riviera of the Middle East, having Gaza be so successful and everything. I honestly think that America would not want to dump a bunch of money in a country that would literally be willing to embrace some kind of actual structured system that makes sense for their people, that's better for their people. Yeah, I don't think you realize they would legitimately do that. Why? Because it does play a good interest in America writ large, but they won't do that. And you think about how many million
Do
dollars get
what? Do
sent.
what?
Claire,
They won't accept America's premise, similar to how
Claire,
you
Who?
won't. Well, he was
What are
bringing
you
up
talking
Somali.
about?
He was bringing up Somali. Don't make it like you don't understand what I'm
I thought
saying.
you were talking about Trump Towers
I was
in
using
Gaza.
it as an example of the fact that America, if they had their way, they literally would help countries become super beautiful, successful, even tourist destinations, but that it's not congruent with America, period. They don't want anything to do
No,
with
no.
America.
Claire, you've
No?
obfuscated
What
from the
you
point
want
that you
is a
came on
failed
and you were
state so you can loot
attacking
their
us for
resources,
Trinitarianism.
right? That's
You
always a
were you
plan.
were you were attacking us for Trinitarianism, right? You came on here and now
You were the
you're
one who started saying
because you've lost.
that America is so wonderfully upright
No,
that
I never said that.
everybody
I've never
believes in
said America's wonderfully
democracy.
upright. No, no, I never said
Okay.
that.
No,
All
you're
right.
saying, oh, look at these Chinese people. They're crying and they're so grateful to be in
You're
America.
making fun
Yeah,
of
maybe
people
they're
crying because
kowtowing
they
to
don't have a
you.
sibling because the Chinese government killed them?
Yeah,
It's
well,
messed
at
up,
least they
Claire.
walked
This is what
back
I
on
say.
that
You don't
policy,
care
right?
about people.
They've
This is
walked
what I
back
say. You
on
don't
that
care about
policy.
people.
They
You don't care about
no no.
people.
I care about the truth, and I've told you that the Chinese government at least admits its mistakes, unlike yours.
The point is, right? I'm not arguing for the American government. You were saying, right? I'm arguing against
What are you
sectarianism.
arguing for then?
I'm arguing that you stop like not caring about us. You come on and you just make fun of us all the time. And so I'm arguing that you stop being hypocritical. You stop being the
A
double standard,
hypocrite is
right?
somebody who
No,
a
we've gone
hypocrite is
over
somebody
this,
who
right? What's
pretends to
the
believe in stuff
yes,
in order for people to think
yes,
that they're better than they
yes.
are. Like,
Right, right.
yeah.
So
So
I'll
I
bring it
think
up, right? I'll
Christians are
bring it up,
mostly
right? You
hypocrites
have you have you
pretending
have a
to
lot of
believe
stuff
in
out there.
God, but
You have a
really
lot of
lying
stuff.
and cheating the
No,
whole
no, we're
time.
again, you're arguing with me. I am a person. Do you know me to lie and cheat and to steal?
Yeah, you keep talking over me, right?
Answer the question, Claire.
What is the question? You've
All right,
forgotten.
Claire. Claire. No,
I
I
never
have
heard
not
it.
forgotten. Claire, I pray for you. You will not move on in your life until you realize you're a hypocrite. And I am
How am I a
ceasing my
hypocrite?
communication. I've explained it to you, right? My last point. My last point of
I
you
want to
being a
know how
hypocrite.
I'm a
So
hypocrite.
I'm
Do I
listening.
pretend
Yes.
to believe in God?
Claire,
My
let him
last point.
talk.
My last point is you as a hypocrite, right? You
How am I a
have pictures
hypocrite?
of you. You have pictures of you in front of certain propaganda. Do you
Yeah,
deny
actually,
supporting
Jacob
that
knows
certain
this, and he's okay
right?
giving me Hebrew
Okay.
lessons.
I'm not talking about Jacob. I'm talking about you, Claire. Do you support that
Yeah.
propaganda? You do support that propaganda.
No, I've never said anything anti-Semitic.
Okay.
In
I'm
fact,
not
in
asking.
fact,
I'm
I
asking,
I
do you
explain to
support
Jews
that
why they always
propaganda?
get
Do you?
themselves
It's a
into
yes or no
trouble.
question. It's a yes or no question. Do you support that
What's the
propaganda?
question again?
Do you support that propaganda?
Are you accusing me of being an anti-Semite?
There was no
And if
accusation.
so,
That was a
then
question. It was
produce
saying,
evidence
no,
that
I
I
was
am an
saying you have pictures
anti-Semite.
of you in front of certain propaganda. Do you support that propaganda?
Certainly not.
Certainly not. Okay. Excellent. Now we're cooking, right? So certainly not. Yet you still leave it up because you want people to accuse you of that, right? So that is hypocrisy. When you're pretending to be
No,
something you
that's
are
not
not,
hypocrisy.
when you are pretending to be something you are not, that is hypocrisy.
I tell anti-Semites exactly what I think of them. And there's all kinds of evidence of that. And I tell them not to blame Jews. I tell them to blame the CIA and US foreign policy. And I tell them that Israel is an American colony
So then
and
take
their heads
down the
explode.
propaganda. Why does it take you so long to disavow that propaganda?
No, because it's my calling card to white nationalists.
You want a calling card to white nationalists?
Yeah, that's how I
So you're
started.
pretending,
Secular Quranism was
you
created to solve their problems.
so you're pretending to be a white nationalist, right?
No, of course I
When you
can't be
pretend to
a
be
white
something,
nationalist.
when you pretend to be
No,
something and you're not, that is
I am
hypocrisy.
offering. I'm offering secular Quranism as a solution to the problems of Westerners. And there are many, many social, economic, and political problems.
You're not offering a new solution, but
Well,
you are
is
a
there
hypocrite.
anyone offering a solution?
You are a hypocrite. Yes.
How
Yes.
am I a hypocrite? Do I
I've
pretend to be
just
better than
explained
I
it.
am?
You
I don't
you
accept your
pretend to follow,
definition.
you pretend to you
You're saying
pretend
I pretend to be an anti-Semite. No, I do not. I do not
Yes,
support
you have that up
anti-Semitism.
and you claim it. You claim it and you say, yes, I have it up. It's my calling card to white nationalists. When you pretend to be something you're not, that is
Yeah,
hypocrisy.
because I want them to know that secular Quranism was created
I'm
for them, but they
I'm not
prefer
gonna I'm not
Christian
gonna have a
nationalism.
I'm not gonna have a pentagon up with let's all praise Satan and picture of me just to reach out to Satanists. Right? Because I'm not a hypocrite. That's not who I am.
Hypocrites are people who pretend to be better than they are.
No, it's
I
not
do not
better.
pretend
It's
to be better
different.
than
It's
I
to be
am.
different. It's to be different. It has nothing to do with better.
Well, yeah, I have to be a bit different, or I'd be completely ignored, wouldn't I?
Heaven forbid somebody's ignored, right? Millions and billions of people are ignored throughout the world. Does that mean they're less of a person?
Well, obviously, if I'm saying something and I think it's important and would solve a lot of big problems, I want people to be listening.
Yeah, so don't be a hypocrite.
I don't see how I'm being a hypocrite. I'm not
I just
pretending to be
explained it
better
to
than I
you.
am.
I'm not
I
saying, see,
don't
you have
accept
this
your
false
explanation.
I don't accept your definition of a hypocrisy because of Merriam-Webster dictionary, right? Or any other dictionary you want to go to, right? The definition of hypocrisy is
Okay, let's
pretending to be
have
something
a
you
look
are
at what
not.
Merriam-Webster says.
Yes, look it up, Brett, look it up. We've done this. Claire, you and I have
In
done this.
order to seem better than I am.
Not better. It doesn't say better. It says nothing about better.
Hypocrites don't pretend to be worse than they are.
Sure. There could be
Well,
hypocrites
the
that could pretend
assumption
to be
is
worse than
you
they are.
want people to think that because you believe in God and Jesus and all that, you're a better person than
No,
an atheist, right?
that's not hypocrisy.
Christianity is associated with hypocrisy.
So is every other person, right? Hypocrisy is not it's not relegated
Yeah,
to one
so
religion.
it says
Hypocrisy is not relegated to one
the practice
religion.
of professing beliefs, feelings, or virtues that one does not hold or
Right.
possess.
You were
Falseness.
practicing
I'm very
believing,
happy
you were
to
putting
explain
yourself
my
in front of
political position.
certain propaganda flags to signal to people, hey, I'm
Mhm.
with you, right? That is pretending to be something, a belief that you do not hold. That is hypocrisy. You just read it.
I have my position on things that I'm happy to explain.
Yes,
So if
but
anybody's accusing me
you
of
also
being a
have
Nazi or an
positions.
anti-Semite,
I'm
I
not.
think that they'll
I've
know
never
that
said
I'm not.
Nazi. I've never said anti-Semite. I never said those words.
Okay, so what are you saying then?
I'm saying you have pictures of yourself in front of certain propaganda that you're refusing to take down because you're saying, hey, I am signaling to these other people that I am with them, I am part of them, when really I'm not. I'm just a Trojan horse trying to inoculate them with something else, right? That is hypocrisy.
I am also signaling to Jews that I have a message for them too.
Okay, that's great, but it still doesn't take away
Okay,
hypocrisy.
so according to Wikipedia on hypocrisy, it's a sin of pretending to virtue or goodness, right? So it's pretending to be better than you are.
Right, that's Wikipedia. I'm talking about a definition of a word.
Yeah,
It's
so
about
it means the
concealment
sin
of
of
one's
pretending
real
to virtue or
character of
goodness.
motives. It's about the concealment of one's real character or motives.
Right?
I
You're
think you've got my
pretending
character already. I'm not pretending to be nice, right?
you
In
you're
fact, I
pretending
deplore
that
this niciness of TLC.
okay,
Yeah,
well,
but
I've not
that's
been
the
Because that means we
hypocrisy.
never
Charlie
have
said it the
proper
best.
discussion.
The hypocrisy of you is holding TLC to a standard which you're not willing to adhere to either.
No, my standard is basically use facts and logic to
I've used facts and
avoid
logic against
and
you.
solve problems. And I'm constantly surprised and
I've
shocked
used facts
that
and
nobody's
logic. I have
interested.
not been nice to you this stream. You've always wanted me not to be nice to you. I've not been nice to you. I've done what you wanted. I've not been nice to you this stream. I've used facts and logic against you and in your arguments and your obfuscations
Yeah, I
have
don't
failed
accept your
time and
argument.
time again.
I don't accept your definition of
So
hypocrisy.
you're basically being a postmodern, which you say postmodernism is not what you agree, right? Postmodernists don't follow facts and logic. Therefore, right, you are then being contradictory to what you say you are.
What do I say I am?
You just say you're all about facts and logic and about not
Yes,
contradicting yourself. And now you're saying you don't accept
yes.
my facts and
How have I
logic.
contradicted myself?
I think the recording of this video will suffice
No, you tell
to
me. You
prove my
tell
point.
me if you know that. So how have I contradicted myself?
Okay, you've been a hypocrite, and then you said you only go
No,
by
I
facts
don't
and
accept
logic.
your definition of
Okay, right.
hypocrisy.
So you don't accept my definition of hypocrisy. That's not my definition, right? That's
Yeah,
the
I don't pretend to
definition.
be better than I am. It's you
That's
guys.
not the
You do
definition.
that.
You have invented a new definition, which is not facts and logic, because you don't just get to invent those things. And so, therefore, you are not using facts and logic. You've asked me to
The
point out
sin
where
of
you don't use
pretending to
facts and
virtue
logic.
or goodness.
Well, you've asked me to point to you where you don't use facts and
It's
logic.
been
You're not
around. This
using facts and
definition has
logic.
been around since 1200.
Right.
What are you
It's been
talking
around
about?
since
I just read you. I
1200.
just
The
read you
sin of
1820. I
hypocrisy
just
is a
read
sin of
you.
pretending to virtue or
I
goodness.
just read you 1820 definition. 1820. All right. That it's simulation to fray, to separate, discern, or judge. And then the breakdown of simulation, which is exactly what you do, is the concealment of one's real character or motives. And you can say,
Okay,
I've been
so
very
what am I
clear.
concealing?
But when you stand in front of propaganda and you're using it to manipulate people in bait click or argue with you so you can get your message out there, that is it's not your true motive.
My motive is to promote secular Quranism and invite people who reject it to explain to me why they object to it.
It's deceitful. Do you not see the deceit?
Claire, object to it because it's Islam. It's too closely associated with Islam, right?
No, it has nothing to do with it. It
making you Islamophobe.
No, it's a false pretense.
Has everything to do with
what am I falsely pretending to be?
Claire, I'm giving you your critique that you asked for, right? I don't reject it on Islam. I reject it on the fact that it wants a one-party political system, that is a government that rules them all without any checks and balances. I adhere.
There will be checks and balances, and Washington warned you guys against political parties. You accept that, don't you? He did say
no,
that.
I do not.
That he said that there were that he said they were dangerous.
Yeah.
I mean, you know that we were dealing with a fragile union when he wrote that. It was a fragile union. It wasn't fast forward years later, 250 years later, and apply it to the fact that we have a two-party system that is very functional in debate and having a side to argue from one side and a side to one. Yeah, I do. It's better than what's going on in your country.
All right, Claire,
what do you think is going on in the UK?
I have family, I have to do stuff. Hey, I have family and I have to do stuff. Hey, Claire,
thanks for coming on, Olsen.
I just want to point out a couple of things. One, I've answered critiques of secular Quranism that you have been obfuscated and then chosen to change the subject on and have not responded properly on. I pointed again and again, and you still tell me, point it out to me, point it out to me. I pointed out to you, I pointed out to you. You still do not listen to me or my critiques, and you do not follow them. You then have
question have I not answered?
You then oh, see, there you go again, right? And then you've chosen to go postmodern and not accept the accepted definition of hypocrisy, so that you yourself are not a hypocrite, but really you are. So please do not level that against me anymore, or against my friends, or against the people in this, right? Whenever you come on, we love to have you on. We love to have you discuss the things that we're discussing, but please do not level hypocrisy to us. Do not level the fact that we don't like to argue with facts and logic, because I've proven here logically that you do not like to use facts and logic yourself. Right. And if you are not using them, then you yourself are holding yourself to a double standard. Right. And so please come again, but please do not level these things against us, because we will all know now that you are full of half truths and obfuscations. Okay. Thank you, Claire. Thank you, Brett.
You got it, buddy. Have a good day. Claire, I guess I want to just ask this. Does it benefit you at all to, because I made a decision for my channel, and everybody's entitled to make a decision for their channel. And the reason why I've done it is because I'm trying to, no problem with people having disagreements, but we've already settled the secular Quranism. We've already settled that we don't see ourselves as idol worshipers. And I understand that you want to divide everybody that you come into contact with. When you go on a Jewish channel, you literally tell them, aren't Christians idolaters? Get them to admit they're Christian idolaters. When you come on to Christians, you look to browbeat the fact that we have different denominations, and you try to divide us over the Trinity, or you try to divide us over whatever doctrine that you think you can give us a hard time about. I don't know if you've ever interacted with Muslims. I mean, I know you have, but
yes, I do.
I don't know.
I do.
I know, but I mean, it's not, you don't divide them. Said that very clearly about how you want the registry to work. Divide the Christians, divide the Jews, unite the Muslims. And so the idea, but you want the Muslims to actually not talk about Shiite Sunni religion. You don't want them to talk about it. So you want to unite them, but you want to keep everybody else divided. You also divide women and men, which really pisses me off. The snide comments you say, the snide no, it's a proposition that you're just pushing out there as if that's the way it is. Like, you make it out to be like, yes, all you women should hate these men. They're all beta men in America. All you men should tell your women to just shut up, but the irony is, like,
no,
I feel Yes, you have said them.
I have said that unmarried parents, never married parents, should be treated as sex offenders. Okay, I'll admit to saying that.
You haven't said
And subject to public corporal punishment. I do say that, yes.
You haven't said
that's the only
that
way
women
to
are
make it clear to women about their behavior.
Okay, let's start one by one. You're telling me you haven't said that women are sick of men in the United States, right? Because they're beta men.
Yes, I can.
You haven't said that women or that men are in a matriarchy and they're not manning up, and they should take control over their women. Okay, so how do you not see that as being? How do you not see that? How do you not see that as being? How do you not see that
by campaigning for the abolition of no fault divorce?
Do you honestly think Christians would not want that?
Well, they don't say it, do they? Who says it?
I think that you're not realizing the fact that your liberty, the most rights idea, is exactly what you're talking about. You want these people to have most liberties and most rights, but yet you want to tell them that they can't have a no-fault divorce. Well, they would say that's against my rights. I should have the right to just get out of a marriage if I don't like it.
Well, I'm saying it should be abolished. I'm very happy to explain why. But yes, I think
I understand why. I agree with the idea.
Should begin with men and women, or moral men and women, to support the abolition of no fault divorce. That I think is still allowed. You know, I guess it's a bit much expecting you guys to say we should have a one-party
state. No, it's a bit much expecting. The Pandora has already been out of the box. There's no way you're going to get that to stop. Just like the idea of them thinking abortion is an actual health right. You know, and again, it's a controversial topic, but at the end of the day, they've gotten this right, and it's given both men and women the freedom to go around and have sex with each other with zero consequences. So the idea and the premise that Christians hold to is similar to what you're trying to lobby for. But the irony is that you are trying to frame this under some perfect Quran system that nobody accepts over on our side, meaning like the morning crew. So you coming in and always trying to drum up crap on the chat is frustrating. It doesn't make any sense. I don't want that crap dividing people in my comment section like that. Having an idea or a thought that I disagree with is one thing, but you say the same thing over and over again every morning is not my idea of starting everybody's day off with a conversation. And that's what I'm trying to do. I get what you're trying to do, but I'm saying on my channel, that's not what I'm doing. So if other people want to allow you to screw their comments up, get everybody pissed off in the morning, that's up to them. I've taken a stand. And then you're saying, Brett is such a silly little Christian. You go on your channel and you want to badmouth me and talk about how horrible a person I am because I'm banning you and blocking you and I like people's opinion. It's not accurate. It isn't the point. The point is that's what I'm trying to do with my channel. I'm literally trying to just do the right thing, have a good time, have a good conversation, connect with people, and have actual relationships, which you care nothing about because so many people have tried to reach out to you and so many people tried to talk to you to get to know you better, and you have a huge wall and you won't let anybody in.
I think you all know me reasonably well.
Reasonably well? No, we don't know you at all.
Yeah. I mean, you seem to recognize me when I have different accounts after you keep.
Yeah, because you say the same thing over and over again. I mean, you don't even. I mean, it's not like you're trying to hide in that regard. You're just trying to get in and try to colonize the conversation. Get everybody stirred up over your talking points.
Well, you can just ignore me. You can just ignore me, but obviously it's on my mind.
But you affect other people,
and I just have to get it off my chest.
Well, get it off your chest on your own channel.
Let me get it off my chest.
You do.
Well, I do
You can
that
do
as
it on your
well,
own
but,
channel.
obviously the need is great.
Well, look, I've given
Well,
you
I
an
don't know
hour and I've
who
given
you
you an
expect
hour and
me to
40
talk to when
I've
you
given you
guys
an
are the
hour and
problem.
45 minutes where we've talked about this. Olson gave you
Thank
a
you.
lot of
I do
attention.
appreciate that.
No, I mean, but I genuinely, this was
And
the
I think you
space
have
I'm fine
quite
with.
a few live views.
What?
Look, I'm helping your channel. I'm sort of promoting
I'm
it.
not,
I mean,
I
this
don't
is what
care
I've been
about my
really
channel. I
doing for
care
you
about the
guys.
relationship with you. I care about a relationship with you. That's the only reason
We
why I
are
did
having a
this.
relationship. We're talking all the time.
It's a superficial relationship. I don't want that.
I'm sure in time it will grow deeper, Brett.
You have never shared anything personal of any kind of significance to your heart with me, nor would you be willing to do
What
that
do you
with anyone
consider
else.
personal? I talk about my. I do. I give examples of stuff I like and things that have happened. I've told you I've been. Okay, it was on Chris's channel. I've been to Disneyland twice. Okay.
Yeah,
What
but
else do you
come
want
on.
me?
Come on, Claire. Do you really not know what I'm asking you for?
Well, I'm only comfortable telling you what I want to tell you, right?
Of
So,
course. And that's fine.
know,
I just wish you're more comfortable with me, that you could share these things and trust that I would not lob them against you in a negative, harmful way. That's what I want. I want you to at least trust me to know that, hey, listen, you have a personal thing. You open up with me. You've been vulnerable with me. And you know what? I may be able to give you even more grace than I'm already trying to give you. I've opened up with you. There's probably very little that I haven't shared with you, but I do worry the same thing that you worry about. But I feel like I have more reason to worry that if I did share certain things with you, literally would use it against me because I've heard how nasty you are on your channel about me. So it's like, okay, I just have to deal with it the way that it is. It is what it is. And you want to just divide people. You don't want to build relationships with people.
no, I just want you to find holes in my arguments. Can you just do
Olson
that?
just
If
sat
you think
here
I'm
for
so
30,
stupid
40
and so wrong,
minutes. No, Olson sat here for 30 and 40
yeah, I
minutes.
don't accept his definition of hypocrisy.
Well, that's just one thing
I
he
mean,
said.
he can't just say, I told you, and therefore I'm right, and the matter's ended.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
Well,
we've had an
we
exchange.
just
We'll
spent
probably have,
almost 2
more
hours
exchanges,
trying to
and,
listen. We
I'm
went through
grateful to
2 hours to try
Okay.
to go over some of this stuff, and we just are not going to agree. We're going to have to agree to disagree, and just don't take it personally. You can call me names and stuff like that. That's fine.
No,
You
I
can
don't
make
take it
fun of us
personally.
being Christians, how stupid we are. That's fine. I mean, we were kind of told in the Bible that this type of stuff was going to happen. So, just take it on the chin. All right, Claire.
Okay.
I'll see you later.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
Okay, take care. Bye, everyone.
Hey, buddy.
Brett, how are you doing, my brother?
Doing all right, man. Been a long time. I can't believe you sat back there for all that. I appreciate you waiting, but I didn't want to bring her on. I didn't bring you on when she was on.
Well, it's funny that the end of your conversation is going to be the beginning of mine. I found something that I found to be a treasure to me, and I wanted to share it to see if maybe you want to weigh it out and see if it resonates. Do you got a second?
Sure.
It's the idea of Adam and Eve. If let's say those are just labels and we're going to relabel them. Let's call Eve the soul. Adam is what the Father makes for the body. So in the story, he divides, he takes the rib from Adam after he breathed the life into Adam. If that's the division of the soul, it makes sense that from Mary, the soul was united in the body of of like, okay, so it gets deep. The idea that you have somebody inside of you trying to be it, they're innocent and ready to make bad decisions, and the husband is your knowledge and your power over your flesh. Now, if you don't listen and your soul just goes wherever it wants, it's going to lead to death. It will go based upon what it sees and what it thinks. What it learns is only death. That is the only thing departing from the word of God provides. But anyway, so if the soul is a description of Eve, and that's the mother of all life, then it makes sense that the body will return to the dust, but like the soul is eternal. And you put your soul that has now a body that was put to sleep, and the side is open for you to be put into, to now have for sake of saying it, is a husband that can rule if you'll let him and lead you to life. That is what the death is you're dying to the Adam to be raised in the second Adam, but your spirit is like the wife that is obedient to the head of the home. But deeper than that is you become Adam. Most people are Eve. They're making mistakes along the way, stumbling and finding death, doing the wrong things. But it's like we're being instructed to actually be Adam, who is going to die to bring the bride home. Does any of that make sense to you?
I mean, I see how you're using it as an analogy to play with the idea there. And it's interesting. I'd have to think of it more, but yeah.
Yeah, it was just a treasure because it's so pretty, thinking like, when he speaks about the wife, he's talking to us. It's kind of like, the wife shouldn't be speaking in the church. Is more about when the Holy Spirit is speaking, don't interrupt it, listen, and then chew on it later. It makes more sense to say than he's like, he's authoritative over a woman. No, he wants you to rule yourself, like you're the woman is the flesh and your spirit is the husband. It's also
perhaps. I mean, I think it's neat to play with parallelisms, but I don't like, for instance, when Paul is talking about the women to stay quiet in church, contextually, he's dealing with a specific thing that's happening at that particular place, but I do think it's interesting to use parallels to try to come up with some ideas symbolically to see a greater idea, right? But I think sometimes parallelisms, you got to be careful because you can take them too far. We kind of talked a little about this last time. It's just, it's kind of like, have you ever read or watched any of the Unseen Realm by?
No. Well, the only thing that I would say is that if it adds clarity and love to his word, it's spirit. Because remember, it says we do not live or walk by the letter nor the word, but by spirit. So everything.
Well, I don't know that it adds clarity. Now I will say this: there's a few people I happen to know personally that like speaking in metaphorical, symbolic language, right? And to them, when they talk, even to each other, they understand exactly what they're talking about. But for most people, I think when you talk in symbols and it's a very abstract idea, it isn't very clear.
Oh, gotcha.
So, what I mean? But again, like Michael Heisner, I mean, one of the things that he was seeing the Bible through the lens of this idea of the book of Enoch and this idea of Genesis in a different way. And there's a lot of people that connect to that. They like the idea of playing with these ideas and possibilities of this unseen realm and spiritual battle that's taking place. And I can see it having some benefits to it. But at some point, you can't look through you can't use that lens to see the entire Bible through. And so difficulty breaks down is when the symbolism continues to get so abstract and you're drawing conclusions directly to things, right? And I'll give you an example. One of his, actually, Gage is another guy that does this. He uses symbolic language of the book of Joshua overlapping with the book of Revelations, right? Okay. Now, as a Christian, I would say we can think that we understand Revelations and we can make some great ideas and have fun thinking about them, as long as it doesn't override our what we're really called to do. You know what I mean? We're really called to know Christ, make him known, and try to live a life as close to him as possible, if we can, right? So, that to me is the first order of operation. What happens at the end of time, I can punt and be okay with the fact. I don't know. I can guess, I can speculate, but I'm okay with not knowing, and okay with the fact that he kind of left a lot of that mysterious, Whereas, if you have a framework where you say to everybody, I've solved the problem, I've figured it all out, this is the deal, this is how it's going to go down, and lots of people have said, this is when our world's going to end, or, you know what I mean? It's like, okay, take it easy.
Yeah. Well, see,
yeah.
my biggest point is like, I find that I am falling more and more in love with his word. And the one thing that I could point out that makes it sound, it's like collective. There's the
hey, just for the record, I have someone else that's live streaming that I try to stay off when he's doing it, but I want you to finish your thought.
Okay. The idea that when he asks to see the coin, and it's a superscription, and he says whose image, that's a 2-time word in the Greek that's only used in Luke, and it's where it's used is right then when he says, let me see the coin. And when Pilate superscribes the King of Kings in the languages, what he did is he made an idea that there's a heavenly currency and there's man's currency. Heavenly currency is when you gather the heart of the matter, like the little treasures, and you share them. That's why the parable of the talents makes sense to me, is because if you take the little nuances that are in scripture and you're like, oh, that's good, because it's like the idea, the bride is everywhere. If you are taking yourself out of the body of Adam to place yourself in Christ, that solves a couple of problems. He says, be one in the body of Christ. And 2, you have to have death in the flesh to be alive in the spirit. So the clarity is there, but it's like, I think these are the things that we were meant to chew on, because I noticed the one symbol of the serpent is they talk about God's word. He says, God said this, God said that, but did God say that? That sounds like what everybody who calls themselves religious does. And that's the warning that the first thing when Christ goes from the wilderness, he says, hey, if you're hungry, you can do something about it. It's the same format that people are doing religiously, is what the serpent is told is the only way he does things. I think the heart of the matter is how you know who fell in love with his word and who knows him versus who goes, what is the letter? What is the law? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I would say, I would encourage you, in my last be to maybe try to put some of your ideas down on paper and organize them. I think that you see some things which are pretty cool, the connections that you make, but it has to be much clearer so that you can articulate it and connect it more directly. You know what I mean? Because you jump around, something here, and then you jump over here and connect something over here, which is completely different. And then you'll connect something here. And I'm not saying you can't talk about it in a beautiful way. You can't draw some parallels to it and connect some of these things. But I think it would be helpful, especially if you're trying, communicate some of the ideas, to be able to say, okay, I mean, when I mean Adam, I mean this. When I mean Eve, I mean this. But without jumping all the way somewhere else, that you can't show some correlation to it, but you can't go. It's hard for me to digest when you go from one body of scripture to make a comparison to another body of scripture to make a connection to another body of scripture to make a connection. And a lot of the things are not actually, like, they're not talking about the same thing, but you're doing it through a symbolic fashion. So I think that if I saw it, like if you kind of wrote it out and then you were able to kind of like see it on paper and kind of say, okay, how am I able to explain what I mean by connecting these two together? It would be helpful.
Yeah.
Just, I mean, just to be able to communicate to me.
Yeah, because to me, I can explain why it's there, where it shows up. It's kind of like the idea that, in Mary, it's a neat little story just in it itself. Is Mary was given a message. She was given a promised birth out of nowhere that would be able to save. That's a Christian. You get a message, what's born inside of you was able to save you. It's like there's simple little nuances that are like coins.
Yeah,
but
see, Christians wouldn't say that this was born inside of them. And using the Mary analogy, it doesn't equate to what that God is from way outside of us. He is not he isn't in us, because that would corrupt God. That's why we needed Jesus, right? We needed somebody that could allow us to stand in the presence of God the Father. So that's what was his that's why we needed him.
Yeah, well, no. The symbolism is that in a body, he can create a life out of, without, it's supernatural, and it is saving. That is.
Yeah, but it has nothing to do with us. It's what he does, not what we do.
Yeah, well, I mean, we have to walk the walk, or else we're
do
like
we?
vain. Well, it's called vanity. It's like he says.
Well, what does Galatians say? What does Galatians say?
Which part? I mean, we could freely talk, my bro. Like I said, I don't want to fight. I'm just saying. I think the.
No, I know. Here's what I would do next time we come on. I want to do this. I want to challenge you.
Okay.
Let's go over Romans and maybe even Galatians, and the idea that we don't do anything. Everything we do is filthy rags. That's biblical.
Oh yeah. No, I agree. No, I agree.
So hold on. What I'm saying is, and I got to end this stream. What I'm saying is that because of how bad what we do is, we need something outside of us to rectify us to even consider being in the presence of the Father.
Yeah,
and that's what Jesus did.
Ourselves. Yep.
And I agree with that. That's what I mean. I think that there's more that we agree with than we disagree with. And I like your Berean idea. Search the scriptures, but just be careful of doing so much of it on your own understanding. I'm not saying you can't be revealed things, but I think that you have to test the things that you feel you're being revealed, other things.
That's what I'm doing,
I think that's
man.
important. Yeah.
So iron
Not just not. Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, see, we're talking a little bit and going, okay, let's chew on it. And if it keeps working, it's a heart of a matter that's uncovering.
You got it. Hey man, I appreciate you popping on. You just happened to jump on a bad stream that was not it was meant for someone specific, and I needed to hopefully address some things and hopefully add some clarity to it. So I do appreciate you popping on though. Yeah, it did. Thank you, Servant. I appreciate it, buddy. And we'll talk again soon. All right, buddy. Love you too.